This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Joe Biden is dead is once again trending because James O'Keefe from the O'Keefe Media Group, who works on the Tucker Carlson network, tweeted out one of these undercover videos that constantly get put out by the O'Keefe Media Group. Of course, I believe that O'Keefe Media Group is controlled as James O'Keefe is controlled. We recently saw James O'Keefe standing next to Donald Trump's Ark of the Covenant that is inside of Mar-a-Lago. And if you can access these people, if you can get close to Donald Trump, if you can interview Donald Trump, if you can be in the same room as him, then you are likely, very likely, almost 100% with certainty compromised. Because inside of this system, as close as we are to all of this stuff going down, they are not showing themselves to the actual public. They are revealing themselves only to one another. And people like me and you can't get near these people if you actually want to call them people, which leads me to what I want to discuss in this video. Now, topics I've discussed over the years include transgenders in Hollywood, as well as artificial intelligence and mask wearing. But it's not something that I do a lot of content on because it's very hard for people to accept. It's very hard if somebody stumbles upon a channel, if they're completely 100% asleep, and they find a channel that is showing every single celebrity saying that they're the opposite gender. It does not mean that that is not true, because I am one of the people who does believe that all, 99%, if not all of these actors are the opposite gender that they reveal themselves as, which is why they're all part of this agenda where all of these parents in Hollywood have their children transition to the opposite gender. Now, there's a lot of reasoning for that, one of which is to get people attracted to the opposite sex without even realizing it. In other words, how many men lust over people like Megan Fox? And when it's eventually revealed, even though Megan Fox is somebody who's openly admitted to being a man out in public in news clips before, when it gets revealed, it starts desensitizing people to all of the stuff that they're trying to do with genders, because they start saying, well, I was attracted to Megan Fox, so I guess if that's a man, then I'm attracted to men, right? That's part of the desensitizing that's going on. But one of the reasons on my channels I've never constantly covered the CIA's masks, these latex masks that a lot of these politicians wear, is because it's one of those things, if you're completely asleep and you stumble upon this content, it'll make your head explode as if you're in the movie Scanners, because it is very hard to understand at first. I try to break things down the best that I can every time I cover any topic, as if the audience listening is brand new to all of it, whether it's the black goo and the transformation that's taking place, or it's the signs and symbols in music videos, or the things going on with AI governance that you see Donald Trump and Elon Musk implementing. I always try to do my videos from the standpoint of somebody who completely has no idea, who is completely submerged in the matrix, and I try to pull them out. So bear with me and let me talk about mask wearing, because this notion of Joe Biden being dead, while it's trending again all over social media, where James O'Keefe somebody's interviewed secretly, right? This whole thing that they do with the O'Keefe Media Group, where they always have these people out at restaurants, they're getting secretly recorded. Somehow this is allowed to get leaked. Nobody gets sued for recording a private conversation, right? And this guy who is a National Security Council advisor inside of the White House says that Joe Biden can't say a sentence, that Joe Biden is dead. And there's some truth to this, right? Because what we can do is we can look at the many faces of Joe Biden and we could see that clearly somebody or something is wearing a mask, right? Now, it might sound crazy, but let's start by taking a look at the many faces of Joe Biden, right? It's very clear if you've seen Joe Biden over the years, even most recently, a decade ago, while he was side by side with Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, that his face has drastically changed. You could see the evolution of his face, but you could also see in these photos that he's wearing masks in these photos. And you might say, what? A mask? Well, I'll show you the types of masks that they have momentarily so you could see just how sophisticated their technology is. But here's Joe Biden during the Obama presidency, And this is not the same guy. You can look at the face, the nose isn't the same, nothing's the same. Now, they've come out and said he's gotten plastic surgery. It's very hard to believe if you follow Joe Biden, his attitude, how he's talked over the years, that he would ever be somebody who would get plastic cosmetic surgery. And obviously, just looking at how he speaks now, it's not the same person. Those things should be clear enough. But obviously, it's very hard for people to actually think that people are being replaced by robots, even though they're telling you that Tesla, etc., Boston Robotics have these types of robots that literally can mimic human beings' movements, right? But what it's hard for people to get is the mask theory. So there's the Illuminati card of the imposter. Many people believe that this card is actually referring and referencing Joe Biden specifically. On The Simpsons, many times we've seen predictive programming used, right? Well, one of the most notorious things that's out there from The Simpsons was politicians running on a stage and Homer Simpson pulling off the masks from their faces. Now, in today's world, the technology that's available to all of us is pretty crazy, right? This is what they call hyper-realistic face masks, which are being sold at retail stores in Tokyo. Now, this is the type of technology that civilians have. And look how frightening this is, using 3D printing. Now you have to ask yourself, well, if civilians are allowed to do this, this is legal, they're letting civilians do this. Just imagine what your government has the ability to do. And going back to the early 1990s, 1993, the CIA was developing masks that they were using for spies. I'm going to show you multiple clips here where you can take a look for yourself at how sophisticated these masks actually are. We think of a mask as if we go to Party Fair, Party City, Spirits, right? Any of these Halloween, satanic Halloween stores, and you see a mask. We've seen how they've evolved from the 80s with the plastic mask. But still, if somebody was wearing a mask from the Halloween store coming to your door dressed as Joe Biden, you wouldn't say, it's Joe Biden. You'd say it's a trick-or-treater wearing a Joe Biden mask. But that's what they want you to think as far as their sophistication with this technology goes. They don't want you to think that they could do any more. So in these clips, you will hear and see for yourself some of the things they've had the ability to do going back 20, 30, 40 years. And just imagine how much more sophisticated it is now. This is coming, part of this clip is coming from Jonah Mendez, a former CIA chief of disguise. A chief of disguise who used to make these masks, put these masks on people who served as spies. And again, remember how far advanced they are now versus then.
It could keep you safe. It could keep you from getting shot. It could keep you alive. A mask could. People are amazed that there was a job title called Chief of Disguise. And most women I know wish they'd had that job. Sounded like fun. Actually, it was fun. I don't think another intelligence agency in the world devoted the time and the budget to disguise like we do. Disguise became a form of body armor. In the Spy Museum, we call the mask a 5-second mask. They proved invaluable. You could change your ethnicity, you could change your gender, you could change your nationality, and if you needed to, you could actually become another person. When I was chief of disguise, we had already begun using Hollywood stunt double masks. That was a technology that came straight out of LA. We worked with a man named John Chambers, who who had done all the makeup for Planet of the Apes.
He has a definite gift for mimicry.
They could spend 5 hours putting on a mask. They could spend an hour taking it off. And they could shoot it again and again and again until they got the lights just right. Our mask had to be perfect in the car. When you got out of the car, you had to know without a mirror that you were good. The point of all of our masks was speed. You had to imagine that you were going to be in situations that you couldn't even anticipate. An officer somewhere picks this thing up, just puts it on in 5 seconds, and knows that it's right, that he's invisible. If you had to sit and tinker with this thing, if you needed a mirror, it wasn't going to be useful to you at all. The masks were full-face latex masks. It allows you to furrow your brow. It allows you to squint your eyes. It allows you to speak. You talked. The specific mask we're talking about would fit just one person. The first thing we do is we make a face impression. If you've been to a dentist that never had a dental impression, it's the same thing. It's just your face, not your teeth. So they would have added to his face. They could rearrange his face a bit and give him a new face that would fit perfectly over his real face. We never used human hair. We always used a synthetic. The idea of a man washing the hair on his mask and making it look nice when that was all done was never going to happen. The synthetic hair, you couldn't hurt it, basically. You could wear your mask in a rainstorm and your hair would still be okay.
Very human.
The masks, more than once, were taken off in a moment of terror and crushed down and put under arms in armpits. They would fit in armpits if they needed to. That was part of the design. The mask is the culmination of a lot of work that we did at CIA over a period of, I say 10 years, developing that technology. It was a big challenge to come up with something that finally actually animated and worked to really fool a person closer than 3-4 feet from you. But we did.
They learned the art.
We actually brought Hollywood back into our labs at one point to look at what we had done, and they were stunned. They're absolutely stunned.
Congratulations.
The fact that we're allowed to show it tells me the CIA have moved on. I don't know what they're doing. I shouldn't know. I'm dying to know, but I don't know.
Relax. You'll get to see it all later on.
So I'm proud to show people how good we got to that point and let them imagine.
So that right there is frightening. The capabilities that they have, the fact that they could do this is frightening. Now, somebody would say, well, why would they do that? Why would they ever wear masks as politicians? Well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they just roll out animatronics? Why wouldn't they just roll out a Tesla bot and put a mask on it? We're literally at the point where Tesla is beginning to sell their Optimus robots for you to have inside of your home. And let's start by taking a look at a few interviews that Biden has done, where you can actually see his mask coming off of his face, where you can see his face morphing differently. You can see shadows on his neck. You can see what looks like a turkey tail on his neck. And you could also see what they call dog testicle chins, where he literally has these hyper flesh latex silicone masks on in these interviews. And anybody out there watching should be able to tell if you pay attention to the video clip that I showed you beforehand, where you see for yourself what they're even telling you that they've had in the past, right? Because that CIA clip that I showed you of the woman speaking, it's way past that. The clip before it was showing you what people are capable of doing now with silicone masks. And the government's advancement is way, 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 way beyond our comprehension. So now knowing that, look at his face, look at his chin. Pay attention to this.
That you have to right the market a little bit here, and the market is that if you have all of the tax breaks, essentially all the tax breaks, all of the benefits flowing to the top 1/10 of 1%, there's never been as great a concentration of wealth, including going back to the Great Depression, right? Ever.
Every circumstance where a large number of people have been victimized and lost. I spoke with them. I learned a long time ago what you've all learned in your life. When someone's going through something that is beyond their comprehension that they ever thought they'd have to go through. If they see someone who they think understands or maybe been through something not the same but similar, it gives them some sense of hope. And I always get criticized sometimes with my staff because when I go to these events, I stay for 3 to 4 hours and answer all their questions. But it matters. It matters a lot. And look, I'm talking, some of you have gone through a hell of a lot more than I've gone through.
So you might be thinking to yourself, well, okay, so you hear that Joe Biden's dead. This is not the first time that Joe Biden's dead has been trending. Joe Biden is dead trends a lot because it almost seems like he's not alive. Now, they'll play it off and say maybe he's got dementia. Maybe he's got Alzheimer's. But here is a clip of the Optimus robot side by side with a clip of Joe Biden walking. And they look eerily identical to one another.
And then we've progressed dramatically year after year.
Looking good, guys.
So if you extrapolate this...
Tesla Boomer Mama wants you. Woo, come here.
Because I think everyone of the...
So when you see the side-by-side shot, I mean, sure, you might say that, well, a 90-year-old man walks like that. Well, this is a guy that can't even complete actual sentences. And sometimes it seems like you get a different variation of Joe Biden every time he steps out in public. So the theory is that Joe Biden is dead. And when O'Keefe talks about this, and they put this out there that Joe Biden said, they never tell you or tell the public out there about the advancements of what the CIA is capable of doing, not just using these types of artificial intelligence robots that they're about to sell to you. So if they're about to sell you the Optimus and tell you, well, it's a little bit dated, it doesn't walk as fast, they're telling you that because they don't want you to think that some of these people that you're seeing in Congress aren't even real, that they're literally animatronic. I mean, they literally show you this at Disney World, right, with all the presidents talking, with these, kind of slow robots that they have there. The truth really is stranger than fiction, and you're entitled to believe what you want to believe. But I'm showing you that this type of technology is way more advanced than we ever will possibly know. It exists. They admit that it exists. They admit that they use these masks for spies, but they don't use it anymore, of course, because why would they admit to using it anymore? It's the same thing with cloning. It's the same thing with MK Ultra. They've admitted that they can do these things, but they don't do them anymore. And you're supposed to take them at their word. And you look at the things that they've done with MK Ultra and you say, wow, these are crimes against humanity. You've literally taken people off the streets and done experiments on their mind. You've short-circuited their brains. That's why you see some of these homeless people walking the streets, speaking out crazy things, speaking out in tongues, walking, all over the place, not knowing where they're going, speaking out to no one. Because there's a lot of people among us who have been experimented on and then let back out into the public. That doesn't mean every single homeless person is that, but the government admits to doing MK Ultra experiments. And then they go, well, we stopped. Right? They admit to having the ability to clone humans, but we stop. Well, why would you learn this technology in the first place? And then we're supposed to believe you've cloned a human being and you've stopped cloning humans? We're supposed to believe that you ran all these experiments on the human mind and learned how to control human behavior and then you stop? We're in the middle of MK Ultra right now. Every single thing that they do to us through the media is a form of MK Ultra. We're dealing with trauma-based mind control on a daily basis. The fear that they pump into us to be afraid of this, to be afraid of that. You could sit here and you could say, well, it doesn't work on me. But little by little, the more you hear it through repetition, it gets ingrained in you. They are ingraining behavior in people without them even realizing it. That's what mind control is. That's what MK Ultra is all about. So it's obviously one of those topics when you talk about it, it's too hard for anybody in the Matrix to understand. So they'll automatically laugh. They'll automatically call you crazy while Elon Musk is rolling out his Optimus Tesla bot, telling you you can have it in your home as a robot. While the CIA has former CIA executives and CIA, directors out in the open talking about the types of masks they used in the 80s and 90s, saying, well, yeah, it's way more. I mean, they're not doing it anymore, but I can't imagine if they were what it would be like to this day. It's just a matter of whether or not you could start understanding what's really happening in the world. And most people don't want to understand because it's actually scary. It's easier to believe that Joe Biden's dead, but then when O'Keefe says Joe Biden's dead and then Joe Biden comes out on TV, where's their excuse to say what's actually happening here? Do they talk about cloning? Do they talk about these masks that the CIA have? Do they talk about the potential of these things being way more advanced than they tell us with Elon Musk's Optimus robot? No, they don't. They literally just go, well, we're just saying he's dead because it's like having a dead person in the White House. It's like having Bernie Lomax from Weekend at Bernie's as your president. And yeah, well, that's all funny and dandy if people actually knew the demonic technology that's in front of us that they're using and then they expect you to go along with, like artificial intelligence. Well, the people would revolt against it. There would be pushback against it, but they don't know. So Joe Biden's dead is trending. But remember, folks, most of these people you see out in the open are not real people. And the technology they have is way more advanced than they'll ever let you know. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you can share this video. Wake some people up to the technology that the government has at their fingertips that they use on us every single day. And again, I thank you all for being here. God bless you and your families as always.